The human risked everything for the princess. Now the alien queen wants him for herself. The kingdom of Lumeria had not seen peace in 100 years. Its floating towers drifted like islands among the clouds, their walls etched with gold and silver filigree that shimmered under the pale light of the twin moons. Yet behind the beauty of the city lay shadows that stretched long and cold, reaching into every corner of the marble streets and crystal halls. In these shadows, whispers of curses and dark magic haunted the noble families, speaking of power beyond mortal reckoning. Kale, a young human warrior of humble origins, had grown accustomed to the whispers. He was no prince, no noble, yet he carried a heart brave enough to challenge fate itself. His life had been a string of small victories and quiet failures, each shaping the man he had become. Yet nothing in his memory could compare to the summons he had received from the royal palace that night, an urgent plea that the princess, Saren, was in danger. Saren, the kingdom's jewel, was more than a princess to her people. She was a symbol of hope, of the possibility that light could endure even in a world swarming with darkness. Kale had admired her from afar for years, respecting her intelligence, her courage, and the quiet grace with which she carried herself. Yet admiration had never been enough. He had long known that fate would demand more than respect, that heroism would test every fiber of his being. The palace guards had attempted to intercept him, believing that a mere human could never save the princess. But Kale's resolve was unshakable. He moved swiftly through the palace corridors, his footsteps silent on the cold marble floors, until he reached the chamber where Saren had been imprisoned by a curse that twisted reality itself. The air was thick with magic, dark, cold, and suffocating. The walls shimmered with shadowy figures that seemed to watch him, waiting to swallow any intruder whole. "Kale," the princess's voice trembled, though her eyes were defiant. "Is it really you?" He offered a brief smile, masking the fear that had tightened in his chest. "It's me, Saren. I'll not leave you here. Not ever." The curse guarding her was like a living thing. Shadows danced along the walls, forming grotesque shapes that writhed and hissed at him. Every step forward required all his concentration, every movement a test of willpower. Kale had trained for years, but even his skills felt insufficient against this ancient magic. Yet he could not falter. Saren's life, and perhaps the fate of Lumeria itself, rested in his hands. He reached into his satchel and drew a small crystal, pulsing with a soft, inner light. The mage who had trained him had warned him of the crystal's power. It could hold back shadows for a time, but only if wielded with courage and focus. Kale inhaled sharply, gripping the crystal tightly. The shadows recoiled, as if sensing the presence of something pure and unyielding. "Hold on, Saren," he whispered, stepping closer to the chamber's center. The darkness hissed and twisted, forming a monstrous figure that towered over him. Its eyes glowed a sickly green, and its voice was like the scraping of stone. "You dare enter my domain, human?" it rasped. "Do you know the price of interfering?" Kale's jaw tightened. "I know the price," he said steadily, "and I am willing to pay it." The shadow lunged, a wave of darkness that sought to crush him. Kale thrust the crystal forward. Light erupted, pure and white, cutting through the shadow like a blade. The creature recoiled, screaming a soundless scream, and for a moment the corridor was silent, except for Kale's ragged breathing. "Kale," Saren stepped forward, her voice trembling. "You could be hurt." "I would rather die than let them take you," he interrupted gently, his eyes meeting hers. In that moment there was no difference between hero and human, prince and peasant, only two souls caught in the struggle of fate and destiny. The shadow, sensing its enemy's defiance, surged again. Kale braced himself, letting the crystal guide his movements. Light and dark clashed, sending ripples of energy through the chamber. His arms ached, his legs trembled, yet he did not waver. Every ounce of his being focused on the princess before him, the future of the kingdom, and the invisible thread of destiny that bound them together. Finally, with one final surge of strength, Kale channeled every bit of light from the crystal into a concentrated beam. The monstrous shadow shrieked and dissolved into nothingness, leaving a trembling silence in its wake. Kale fell to his knees, the crystal flickering weakly, but Saren was safe. She rushed to him, grasping his hand. "Kale, you saved me." Her eyes were wide with fear and relief. "I thought I might lose you." He shook his head, managing a tired smile. "You'll never lose me, Saren, I promised." For a moment there was peace. The shadows were gone, the curse broken for now. Yet Kale sensed something else, something larger than the kingdom, larger than fate. In the quiet that followed the battle, the air seemed to hum, and the stars above Lumeria shimmered in an unusual pattern. "You did something extraordinary tonight," Saren whispered, her voice barely audible. "But I fear this was only the beginning." Kale looked up at her, confusion and worry knitting his brow. "What do you mean?" Before Saren could answer, the night sky above the palace shimmered unnaturally. A pulse of light, ethereal and commanding, streaked across the heavens. It wasn't like any comet or meteor he had ever seen. This was deliberate, purposeful, a presence watching him, observing him. Kale's heart quickened. The hairs on his neck stood on end. He felt it deep in his chest, a sensation of being measured, weighed, and judged by something immense and unknowable. "Do you feel that?" Saren asked, clutching his arm. Her voice was barely a whisper. Kale nodded, unable to speak. The light coalesced into a form, humanoid yet alien, regal, and terrifying. Its presence was both magnetic and suffocating, a being who seemed to exist beyond time itself. The figure's eyes glimmered with intelligence, curiosity, and desire. Kale could not explain it, could not reason with the feeling that tore through him like a storm. Then, without a sound, a voice echoed, not in the air but in Kale's mind. It was deep, commanding, and strangely intimate. "You belong to me now." Kale staggered, clutching his head as if the words were physical blows. Saren gasped beside him, but her eyes were filled with questions she did not dare speak. "Who? What are you?" Kale managed to whisper. The form in the sky did not answer. It only shimmered, eyes fixed upon him with a depth that seemed endless. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, the being vanished, leaving the night sky quiet, yet charged with a lingering energy that made Kale's skin crawl. Saren held him tightly. "Kale, what is happening?" He shook his head slowly, trying to clear the confusion. I don't know," he admitted, "but I think we've just been noticed by something more than us." For the first time, the weight of his heroism pressed down upon him. He had saved the princess, defeated the curse, and preserved his kingdom, but he had also drawn attention he did not understand, attention that could change his life or end it in ways he could not imagine. Saren's hand found his. "Kale, whatever comes, we'll face it together. You saved me tonight, and He silenced her with a gentle finger to her lips. "I will protect you, Saren, always, but we must be ready. Whatever that was, it is not done with us." The palace towers shimmered under the twin moons, their lights flickering as if in warning. Somewhere in the distance, Kale thought he could hear the faintest echo of a voice, not Saren-esque, not human, but commanding and intimate. A promise. A claim. Kale's heart tightened. He had risked everything for the princess, and now, he felt the weight of eyes that saw far beyond mortal limits. He did not yet know what it meant or what would come. But one truth was undeniable. His life and his love for Saren had just become entangled with forces beyond the kingdom, beyond the stars, and beyond comprehension. As they watched the skies together, Kale knew one thing with certainty. The journey had only just begun, and the greatest risks and desires were yet to reveal themselves. The stars above Lumeria had never seemed so alive. They shimmered with a brilliance that felt deliberate, as though they were watching, waiting, holding their breath. Kale could not shake the feeling of being observed. Ever since the shadow in the palace had vanished and the strange voice whispered in his mind, a constant hum of energy seemed to pulse around him, making his skin tingle and his heart beat faster. Saren noticed it too. She had returned to her chambers after the night of terror, but she could not sleep. Every shadow in the palace felt heavier, every breeze colder. When she found Kale pacing in the hall, his eyes fixed on the sky, she knew he felt it. "Kale, you're troubled," she said softly. He turned to her, forcing a calm smile. "I'm fine," he said, but his voice betrayed him. His hands trembled slightly as he ran them over the hilt of his sword. "It's just something out there, something watching." Saren stepped closer, her hand resting lightly on his arm. "Then we face it together like we always do." Kale's chest tightened. Her words, meant to comfort, reminded him of how much he cared for her. She was not only the princess he had sworn to protect, but also the one who had captured his heart completely. And yet he knew that the events of that night were only the beginning. Something far beyond the kingdom had taken notice of him, and it would not let go so easily. The air shimmered again, soft at first, like heat rising from stone, then growing dense and tangible. Kale's eyes narrowed. "It's here," he whispered. Before either of them could react, a figure appeared in the hallway. She was not human, though her form was vaguely humanoid, tall and regal. Her skin shimmered like starlight, shifting colors with every movement. Eyes like liquid silver stared directly at Kale, and though she spoke no words aloud, her presence filled the hall, commanding attention and awe. "I am Valira," the figure said, her voice echoing in Kale's mind, not through sound but as a thought, a command, and a question all at once. "And I have come for you?" Kale's jaw tightened. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" Valira smiled, a small, knowing curve of her lips. "I have watched your deeds, your courage, your defiance, your love. It has drawn me to you. You are remarkable, Kale of Lumeria." Saren stepped protectively in front of him. "Do not approach him," she warned. Her voice was steady, but her heart raced. There was something about this being that made the very air hum, as if even the walls were bending to her will. Valira regarded Saren with a curious tilt of her head. "Ah, the princess, strong and courageous, yet fragile. I sense your bond. It is powerful." Kale's pulse quickened, a mixture of awe and unease twisting inside him. He felt it, the pull of her presence, a gravity unlike any other. Every fiber of his being wanted to resist, to step back, yet he was mesmerized, drawn toward her without knowing why. "What do you mean you've come for me?" Kale asked, trying to sound firm. "I belong here with my people, with Saren. You cannot just—" Valira's gaze softened for a fleeting moment. "Belonging is complicated. You risked everything to save your princess. That bravery, that selflessness, it has caught my attention. I am offering you a choice, Kale: power, knowledge. A chance to protect those you love in ways you cannot yet imagine." Kale shook his head. "I don't want your power, I just want to keep Saren safe." Valira's smile widened, though it did not reach the depth of her eyes. "Ah, love, such a simple human thing. Yet it can make you strong or make you blind. How curious. You are torn, Kale, I can feel it. You are bound to her, yet something within you stirs at my presence." Saren's hand tightened on Kale's arm. "Kale, be careful," she warned. Her voice quivered slightly. "This being is unlike anyone we have known." Kale swallowed hard, struggling with a surge of emotion. Valira's presence was intoxicating, almost suffocating in its intensity. Her gaze seemed to look not only at him, but into him, reading every thought, every fear, every desire. He felt exposed, yet strangely alive. "I will not leave her," Kale said firmly, even as a part of him wondered if he could resist the pull. Valira's expression shifted, a mix of curiosity and amusement. Bold, admirable, and yet defiance can be so enticing. "I see why you risked everything for her. But Kale, the universe is larger than your kingdom, your people, your love. There are powers at work here that you cannot yet comprehend." Kale's mind raced. He had faced death, he had faced magic beyond human understanding, and yet this presence was something different. Something that challenged not just his strength, but his very soul. Saren's voice broke through his thoughts. "Kale, remember who you are. Remember why you fight. Do not let her sway you." He looked at her, seeing the trust and fear and love in her eyes. It anchored him. I will not," he said, his voice firm. "No matter what you say or what power you offer, I will protect her." Valira's gaze lingered on him, and for a moment she seemed almost gentle. "Very well, human, I admire your loyalty, but know this: loyalty is a choice, and choices have consequences. I will wait for you, Kale. The universe does not forget those who stand out. You will see me again, and then perhaps your heart will be tested." With that, she vanished as suddenly as she had appeared, leaving behind a faint trace of shimmering light that lingered like a whisper in the air. Kale sank to his knees, exhaling slowly. Saren knelt beside him, placing her hand over his. "Kale, are you all right?" He looked up at her, meeting her gaze. I think so, but we are no longer alone. Someone has noticed us, and I don't know if we are ready for it." Saren's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" He shook his head. "It's hard to explain, but I can feel her presence, even now after she's gone, and I know she will return." Saren's eyes widened slightly. "Then we must be ready. Whatever comes, Kale, we face it together." He nodded, but a knot of worry tightened in his chest. Her words brought comfort, yet they could not erase the feeling that something had shifted irrevocably. The world had grown larger, more dangerous, and far more complicated. The next few days passed in a blur of preparation. Kale and Saren trained, strategized, and reinforced the defenses of the kingdom. Yet, no matter how much they planned, the sense of being watched never faded. Every night, Kale would step onto the balcony of his quarters, staring into the endless sky, searching for the shimmer of alien light that marked Valira's presence. He wondered what she wanted from him, what her intentions truly were. Power, knowledge, companionship, perhaps all of these. But the thought that she might interfere with his bond with Saren filled him with unease. He clenched his fists. He had faced monsters, curses, and ancient magic before, and yet the tension he felt now was different. It was personal, emotional, a test not only of his strength but of his heart. One evening under the twin moons, Kale found himself alone on the balcony. The night was quiet, but the stars pulsed with a strange rhythm. A soft breeze stirred, carrying a faint shimmer that made the hair on his arms stand on end. Then she appeared, not in the form of light this time, but as a figure standing on the balcony across the courtyard. Her eyes glimmered like molten silver, and she regarded him with a curiosity that felt almost intimate. "Kale," she said, her voice echoing in his mind. "You are restless. I can feel your heart racing, your thoughts scattered. You cannot hide from me." He squared his shoulders. "I am not afraid of you." Valira tilted her head, studying him. "No, you are brave, admirably so, but bravery alone will not protect you from what is to come. You feel the pull of something you cannot yet name, and soon you will have to choose." Kale's chest tightened. "I choose Saren always." A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips. "Ah, loyalty. You are rare, Kale, but the universe is patient and temptation persistent. We shall see how long you can hold to your choice." With that, she vanished once more, leaving only the echo of her presence and the pulsing light of distant stars. Kale sank to his knees again, heart pounding. He felt the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. He had risked everything for Saren once, and he would do it again. Yet now the forces that moved beyond human comprehension had taken notice, and he could not help but wonder, when she returned, would his heart still be his own? Kale could not sleep. Even after long hours of training and endless strategizing with Saren, the image of Valira's silver eyes haunted him. He had faced deadly curses, shadow monsters, and the cruel whims of fate, but nothing had unsettled him like her. She was not merely a threat. She was a force of nature, beautiful, terrifying, and commanding, and he could feel her influence tugging at the edges of his mind even when she was gone. Saren noticed his unease. "Kale, you've been distant," she said gently, touching his arm. "What's wrong?" He shook his head, forcing a calm smile. "It's nothing, just the events of the past few days, that's all." Saren frowned, but did not press further. She knew Kale well enough to sense when he was hiding something. She respected his silence, yet worried about the unseen weight pressing on his shoulders. The next evening, as the twin moons rose above Lumeria, Kale walked alone along the palace walls, staring out at the endless stars. The wind carried a strange energy, a tingling sensation that brushed against his skin and made the hairs on his arms stand on end. He had learned to recognize it. It was her, the alien queen. The air shimmered, and before Kale could react, a column of silver light coalesced in front of him. Valira stepped out, her presence filling the courtyard with a gravity that made him feel both small and exposed. Her form seemed to glow softly, each movement radiating control and elegance. "Kale," she said, her voice smooth and resonant. "I have waited for this moment. You are restless. Your heart is conflicted." He took a deep breath. "I am loyal. You cannot sway me from Saren." Valira tilted her head, studying him with curiosity. "Loyalty is admirable, but it is also fragile. So much depends on the choices we make, Kale, and choices are rarely simple." Kale's brow furrowed. "What do you want from me?" "I want to understand you," she said softly. "To know why a human can risk so much for another. To see the strength that binds you to her, and to see if you are capable of facing forces beyond your understanding." Kale felt the pull in his chest, the strange gravity of her presence drawing him forward. He wanted to resist, to retreat into the safety of Saren's arms, yet something compelled him to remain, to face her. Valira's eyes glimmered. "You are brave, admirable, but bravery alone will not protect you from the web I weave. Come, Kale. Let me show you what lies beyond your world." Before he could respond, the courtyard around him seemed to dissolve. Stars and light twisted into a spiral, and Kale felt himself lifted off the ground, weightless, pulled into a realm that was not Lumeria, not the palace, not anything he had ever seen. He landed softly on a surface that felt solid but shimmered with shifting colors, like glass reflecting the night sky. Towering structures surrounded him, made of crystal and light, their forms impossible to measure. The sky above was alive, moving with colors and shapes that made Kale's head spin. "Where am I?" he asked, awed and fearful. "This is my realm," Valira said, her voice echoing across the vast expanse. "A place where time bends, where thoughts and desires shape reality. Few mortals have ever entered, and fewer survive without losing themselves. You, Kale, are special. He swallowed hard. Why me? Why have you chosen me? Her gaze softened just slightly. Because you have something rare. Courage, loyalty, love, but also curiosity and strength of heart. You are not content to follow. You seek, you risk, you fight, and that draws attention. I wish to see if you can face what lies beyond. Kale's chest tightened. I did not come here to be tested by you. I came to protect Saren. Valira smiled faintly. Protection is noble, but sometimes protection requires understanding. You cannot protect what you do not comprehend. Here you will see truths that mortal eyes cannot bear, Kale. And you will be forced to confront your own heart. The first challenge came quickly. Shapes formed from the light around him, taking the appearance of the shadows he had faced in the palace. They moved with uncanny speed, their forms twisting and shifting. Kale raised his sword instinctively, though he knew these were no ordinary shadows. They were projections of his own fears, doubts, and insecurities. You see your weaknesses, Valira said. Every fear you have, every failure, every hesitation. Here they take shape. Face them or be consumed by them. Kale's mind raced. He felt the weight of his responsibilities pressing down, Saren, the kingdom, his own honor. But he also felt something new, the stirring of doubt, a whisper that perhaps he was not enough, that he might fail despite his courage. He charged forward, swinging his sword at the shadows. Each strike caused ripples of light to explode around him, scattering the forms for a moment before they reformed. Kale realized that brute force alone would not work. He had to confront the fear within himself, acknowledge it, and move past it. He closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. I am not perfect. I am human. I will fail, I will stumble, but I will rise, and I will fight for those I love. The shadows paused, as if listening. Then one by one they dissolved into sparks of light, leaving Kale standing alone in the radiant, shifting landscape. Valira approached him, her steps silent. Impressive, she said softly. You have faced yourself and emerged stronger. Few mortals possess such resilience. Kale's heart pounded. Why are you showing me this? What is your purpose? Valira's eyes softened with a strange intensity. I wish to test you and to teach you. You risked everything for Saren. That is noble. But the universe is vast, and danger does not always come from shadows you can see. Some dangers are invisible within hearts, within choices. You will need to understand that if you are to survive. Kale struggled to grasp her words fully. He had fought battles, saved lives, and faced curses, yet her realm made him feel small and mortal in a way he had never experienced. And yet he felt alive, every nerve alert, every sense heightened. Valira stepped closer, her presence enveloping him like warmth and cold at the same time. You are bound to her, and yet I can feel your heart stirring. That is why I am patient. I will not claim you by force. The universe does not need force to shape destiny. I merely offer possibilities. Kale clenched his fists. I choose Saren, he said firmly. No matter what you offer, no matter what you show me, my heart belongs to her. Not to you, not to anyone else. Valira's eyes glimmered, a mix of curiosity and amusement. Ah, loyalty. Admirable, and yet we shall see how steadfast it truly is. The threads of fate are delicate, Kale. They twist, they pull, and sometimes even the strongest heart must be tested. Kale felt a shiver run down his spine. He did not yet know how she intended to test him further, but one truth was clear. His life, his love for Saren, and his very sense of self were now entangled with forces far beyond Lumeria. For what felt like hours, Valira guided him through her realm. He saw civilizations built on floating islands of light, creatures that defied description, and energies that responded to thought and emotion. Every sight was overwhelming, yet Kale absorbed it all, understanding a little more of the universe's vastness and of the responsibility he carried. And yet, even amid the wonder, he could feel the pull of her presence, a gentle tug at the edges of his heart, testing the boundaries of his loyalty. He thought of Saren, of her trust, her love, and her courage. That thought anchored him, reminding him why he had risked everything once, and why he would do it again. Valira watched him carefully, her expression inscrutable. You are remarkable, Kale, she said finally. Few humans could endure what you have seen and remain so centered. And yet I sense a storm within you, a choice that has not yet been made. You must decide soon, or fate will make the decision for you. Kale's chest tightened. I have already made my choice. My heart belongs to Saren always. Valira's gaze softened, though a trace of something unreadable lingered in her eyes. We shall see, Kale. The universe has a way of challenging even the strongest bonds. You may survive this realm, but you will not leave unchanged. And when the time comes, your loyalty will be tested like never before." With a flick of her hand, the realm around him began to dissolve. Colors, shapes, and lights swirled and faded, leaving him standing once more in the quiet courtyard of Lumeria. The stars above shimmered faintly, as though aware of what had occurred. Kale's knees trembled and he sank to the ground. He had survived, but he knew this was only the beginning. Valira's presence, her power, and her mysterious intentions were a force that would return, persistent, patient, and powerful. When he finally looked up, Saren was there, rushing to his side. "Kale, are you all right?" He forced a weak smile. "I am, but I have seen things, Saren. Things I cannot fully explain, and I know she will return. The alien queen, she is unlike anything we have faced, and she is watching us." Saren placed her hand over his, her eyes steady and full of trust. "Then we face her together, whatever comes, Kale, always together." He nodded, holding her hand tightly. "Always," he whispered. And for the first time that night, amidst the wonder and terror of what he had witnessed, Kale felt the anchor of their love keep him steady. But even as they stood together under the twin moons, Kale knew the universe had begun weaving a web of power, temptation, and tests, one that would challenge his courage, his heart, and the very bond he shared with Saren. The journey had only deepened, and the stakes were higher than ever. The kingdom of Lumeria slept under the twin moons, unaware of the quiet tension building in its skies. Kale and Saren had returned from the alien queen's realm, but the sense of being watched did not fade. The palace walls, once familiar and comforting, now felt smaller, almost fragile compared to the vast, shifting dimensions Kale had glimpsed. Every star above seemed to pulse with hidden meaning, every breeze carried the weight of an unseen presence. Kale found little rest. Even as he sat beside Saren, holding her hand and watching the moonlight dance across her hair, his thoughts returned to Valira. The alien queen's presence lingered like a shadow over his heart. He knew she would return, and he feared the moment when his loyalty would be tested. Saren noticed his unease. "Kale, you've been distant again," she said softly. "Please share what you feel." He shook his head, trying to smile. "It's complicated. She's unlike anything we've ever faced. I've seen her realm, Saren. Things beyond imagination, and yet I know my heart belongs to you." Saren's eyes softened, but worry lingered there. "Your heart is strong, Kale, and that is why I trust you, but I fear what is coming. The alien queen is patient, and she will not give up so easily." Kale nodded. "I know, and I won't let her sway me. Not now, not ever." The night deepened, and with it a whispering wind swept through the palace corridors. It was faint at first, a soft hum like a song just beyond hearing. Then it gathered strength, coalescing into a voice that seemed to echo in Kale's mind. "Kale, you cannot hide from me. Your heart calls to me." He stiffened, feeling the familiar pull of her presence. "Valira," he whispered, almost in disbelief. She was here unseen, yet her power pressed against him like a tide. Saren's hand tightened around his. "What is it?" "She's here, watching," Kale said, struggling to keep calm. "And I feel as though she's reaching for me." Before Saren could respond, the air shimmered and the space around them bent and twisted. Light and shadow danced in impossible patterns, and the walls of the palace seemed to stretch and vanish. Kale grabbed Saren's hand, pulling her close. When the distortion settled, they found themselves in a vast, otherworldly landscape. Crystalline towers rose into skies filled with shifting stars. Rivers of light flowed across the ground, and the air shimmered with energy that made every breath feel charged and alive. Valira stood at the center, her form luminous and commanding. "Welcome, Kale, and you, Saren," she said, her voice calm but resonant. "I have been waiting for this meeting. It is time for hearts to speak, choices to be made, and truths to be revealed." Kale stepped forward protectively, keeping Saren close. "Why bring us here? What is this place?" "This is my realm," Valira said, gesturing to the vast expanse. "Here nothing is hidden. Thoughts, feelings, intentions, they manifest as reality. And tonight you will see yourselves as you truly are. Kale, Saren, your bond will be tested." Saren's brow furrowed. "Tested by you?" Valira smiled faintly. "Not by me. By circumstance, by the choices you make under pressure, by what you are willing to risk for love, loyalty, and courage. I offer you no harm, yet I offer you revelation. Step forward if you dare." Kale glanced at Saren, seeing determination mixed with fear in her eyes. "Together," he whispered. She nodded, and they stepped into the center of the crystal landscape. Immediately, the air shifted. Shapes formed from light and shadow, taking the appearance of fears and doubts they had both tried to bury. Kale saw visions of Saren in danger, of his failure to protect her. Saren saw Kale pulled away by forces she could not touch, his face twisted in anguish. "Face them," Valira's voice echoed. "The truth of your hearts will guide you, or your fears will consume you." Kale felt panic rise. His first instinct was to fight, to strike at the shadowed visions of danger and loss. But he quickly realized that force alone would not succeed. He needed to confront the feelings within: fear of failure, fear of losing Saren, fear of what Valira represented. He closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. "I will not fail," he whispered to himself. "I will protect Saren always. No matter what appears before me, no matter the trials, my heart will not falter." The visions paused, as if listening, then began to dissolve, leaving him standing tall, stronger than before. He opened his eyes to see Saren doing the same. Her expression was serene, yet her resolve burned brightly. She reached for him, and their hands clasped, grounding them both in the reality of their love. Valira watched silently, her gaze assessing. "Impressive," she said. "Few couples survive such trials with their bond intact, but the universe is not done with you yet. There is one final reckoning." Before they could react, the landscape shifted again. The ground beneath them became turbulent, rivers of light rushing like storm waters. Shadows rose from the currents, forming a colossal figure that combined elements of both Kale's and Saren's fears, powerful, looming, and threatening. "You must face this together," Valira said. "Individually, you may falter, but together your strength is greater than any shadow in the universe." Kale and Saren exchanged a glance. The fear was real, but so was their trust in each other. "We are together," Kale said firmly. "Whatever comes, we face it as one." The shadow surged forward, and they met it head-on. Light and darkness collided, and Kale felt the pull of the alien queen's energy, testing his will, pushing him to doubt. He thought of Saren's hand in his, of her courage, of their shared vow to protect each other. That thought steadied him, grounding his heart. Saren mirrored his focus, her inner strength shining through. The shadows twisted, trying to break them apart, exploiting their fears. Kale's fear of failure, Saren's fear of losing him, they pressed against the couple like invisible hands. But together they moved as one. Kale struck with precision and courage, while Saren supported with clarity and insight. The shadow faltered, then fragmented, scattering into sparks of light. They had passed the trial, not by might alone, but by trust, unity, and love. Valira's voice rang out, softer now, almost approving. "You have survived the reckoning of hearts. Few possess such resilience, such strength of bond. Your love, it is rare and powerful." Kale breathed heavily, still holding Saren's hand. "We survived," he said, disbelief and relief mixing in his voice. Saren smiled, her eyes glistening. "Together," she whispered. Valira stepped closer, her presence gentle but immense. "Kale, Saren, your bond is strong. Yet the universe is vast and tests will come again. I offer no threats, only truths. Loyalty, love, courage, they will always be tested. And when the next trial comes, you must remember what you have learned tonight." Kale's chest tightened. "I understand, and no matter what, I will not waver, not from her, not from anything." Valira's gaze lingered on him, a mixture of curiosity, admiration, and something he could not define. "Very well, I will wait, as patience is one of my oldest strengths. But Kale, know this, the universe is watching. Your choices echo farther than you imagine, and I will return." With a subtle wave of her hand, the crystal realm dissolved. Kale and Saren found themselves back in the quiet courtyard of Lumeria, the twin moons casting a serene glow over the palace towers. Kale sank to his knees, the weight of the experience pressing heavily on him. Saren knelt beside him, her hand over his, offering warmth and comfort. "We survived," she said softly, "but I know she will return, and the next trial may be even harder." Kale nodded, feeling a mix of exhaustion and determination. "We face it together," he said, his voice firm. "Whatever comes, Saren, always together." The night was silent except for the faint hum of distant stars, but Kale knew, deep in his heart, that the universe had begun weaving a web of power, tests, and temptation. And when Valira returned, they would face a reckoning unlike any before. Yet one truth remained unbroken. Their bond, forged through trials and fear, was stronger than any force in the universe. And that bond would guide them through the shadows yet to come. The night sky above Lumeria was unusually still. The twin moons cast a gentle glow over the kingdom, yet the calm felt fragile, as though the universe itself was holding its breath. Kale stood on the palace balcony, his gaze fixed on the stars, sensing the pulse of a presence that had haunted his thoughts for weeks. Saren approached quietly, her hand brushing against his arm. "Kale," she said softly, "you've been distant again. Are you ready?" Kale turned to her, seeing the determination in her eyes, the quiet strength that had always anchored him. "I am," he said firmly. "She will come tonight. Valira will return, and this will be the final trial." Saren nodded, gripping his hand. "Then we face her together." "Whatever comes, Kale, always together." Kale felt his heart tighten. Those words, repeated in countless moments of danger and fear, were more than promises. They were a tether, a bond that had survived curses, shadows, and cosmic trials. "Always," he whispered back. As the wind picked up, carrying the faint shimmer of distant light, the air suddenly thickened. Stars seemed to pulse with rhythm, and then, without warning, a column of radiant silver light descended from the heavens. From it, Valira emerged, radiant and commanding, her form glowing against the night sky. "You have grown stronger," she said, her voice echoing both in the air and in Kale's mind. "Stronger than I anticipated." Kale stepped forward protectively, keeping Saren close. "We are not afraid of you, Valira," he said, voice firm. "Whatever you bring, we will face it." Valira's eyes shimmered with curiosity, as if she were studying the very essence of Kale and Saren. "You speak boldly, human, and yet there is truth in your words. Your bond is extraordinary, but extraordinary bonds attract extraordinary trials." Saren drew herself up, her gaze unwavering. "We will not waver," she said. "We face every trial as one." Valira tilted her head, a faint, almost wistful smile crossing her face. "Very well. Then let the final reckoning begin." The air shifted instantly. The palace grounds dissolved into a realm of light and shadow, vast and impossible, stretching infinitely. Stars flowed across the sky in patterns that seemed to respond to thoughts and emotions. Rivers of shimmering energy twisted across the land, carrying visions of trials yet to come. Kale and Saren held hands tightly, stepping forward together. They could feel Valira's presence all around them, the pull of her power testing their hearts and minds. But now, unlike before, they felt confident, not invincible but grounded in the love and trust they shared. The first challenge appeared, a series of glowing figures, shadows shaped like Kale's past failures, rising from the rivers of light. Each figure represented a fear he had faced before, the monsters of the palace, the shadow curse, moments when he doubted himself. Kale's chest tightened, and for a moment fear threatened to overwhelm him, but Saren squeezed his hand. "We are together." "Remember why you fight, Kale." Breathing deeply, Kale stepped forward. "I am not my failures," he whispered. "I am Kale, protector of Saren, and I will not be broken by fear." Light surged from him, dissolving the shadow figures one by one. He felt the familiar weight of Valira's gaze, assessing, testing, yet not striking. Next, the realm shifted, forming a labyrinth of mirrors. In each reflection, Kale and Saren saw visions of themselves apart, torn by fear, doubt, and longing. The reflections spoke in voices that mimicked their own, whispering doubts, tempting them to separate. "You see," Valira's voice resonated, "the universe tests not just your courage, but your trust. Can your bond withstand the temptation to abandon each other?" Kale looked at Saren, meeting her eyes across the mirrored corridors. "I will not leave you," he said firmly. "No reflection, no illusion can change that." Saren nodded, stepping closer. "And I will not leave you. Whatever comes, Kale, we face it together." Together, they moved through the labyrinth, ignoring the illusions, focusing on the reality of their bond. The mirrors shattered, scattering into fragments of light, leaving the corridor open and clear. Valira appeared before them again, her expression softer, almost contemplative. "Impressive," she said. "Few survive such tests unbroken, but the final trial is not one of fear or illusion, it is one of choice." The landscape shifted once more, revealing a vast field of stars. In its center stood two paths, one glowing with warmth, light, and the familiar comfort of home, the other pulsing with radiant silver energy, alien and mysterious, offering knowledge, power, and understanding beyond mortal limits. Kale's heart pounded. He knew instantly what the choice represented. One path promised the safety and love of Saren, the world he had always known. The other promised unimaginable power, insight into the universe, and the chance to protect Saren in ways he could not yet comprehend, but at the risk of losing himself, of opening his heart to Valira's influence. He felt Valira's presence intensify, her voice gentle yet persuasive. Kale, you have the power to choose differently, to step into a realm of understanding, to gain what mortals rarely possess. You may protect her forever if you are willing to embrace me and all that I offer. Kale shook his head, his resolve hardening. I do not need power to protect her. My heart, my courage, and my love for her are enough. I choose Saren, always her. Saren's eyes glimmered with tears of relief and admiration. She stepped closer, pressing her hand to his cheek. And I choose you, Kale, always you. Valira's form shimmered, and for a moment Kale saw something in her eyes that surprised him, a hint of admiration, perhaps even respect. Very well, she said softly. You have chosen wisely. Loyalty, love, and courage, these are rare gifts. And you have proven your worth. The alien landscape began to dissolve, returning Kale and Saren to the palace courtyard. The twin moons cast their gentle glow over them, peaceful and steady. Valira's presence lingered, soft and radiant, before she slowly faded into the stars. Kale sank to his knees, pulling Saren close. Relief, exhaustion, and joy washed over him in a single wave. We made it, he whispered. Saren smiled, tears glimmering in her eyes. Together, she said, her voice steady. Always together. For a long moment, they simply held each other, feeling the strength of their bond. The trials, the illusions, the alien realm, all of it had tested their hearts, their courage, and their loyalty. Yet they had endured, stronger and more certain than ever. Kale finally lifted his head, gazing at the stars. Somewhere out there, Valira still watched, a presence patient and observant, but he no longer feared her. He understood that true strength did not come from avoiding challenges or accepting power. It came from the courage to choose, to love, and to remain loyal even when temptation or fear loomed. Saren rested her head against his shoulder. Do you think she will return? She asked quietly. Kale smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Perhaps, but it does not matter. Whatever comes, we face it together, and we are stronger now than we were before. The night was calm, yet alive with possibility. The kingdom of Lumeria lay beneath them, peaceful and unaware of the cosmic forces that had intersected with their lives. Kale and Saren knew that challenges would come again, trials, temptations, and perhaps even war. But they faced them not as individuals, but as one heart, united in love, courage, and loyalty. Valira's influence remained, subtle and distant, a reminder that the universe was vast and that the choices they made resonated beyond their understanding. But Kale did not fear it. He had faced the shadows of his own heart, the illusions of doubt, and the pull of the unknown. And he had chosen Saren. Hand in hand, they walked back toward the palace, the twin moons guiding them. The trials had ended, but the journey of life, love, and courage continued. Together, they would face whatever the universe sent, unbroken and steadfast. Kale whispered almost to himself, some risks never end, but some love is worth everyone. Saren smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. And we are ready, Kale, ready for anything. The stars above shimmered in approval, the universe vast and endless, yet filled with possibility. And in the quiet peace of that moment, Kale and Saren knew that no matter what came next, they would endure, together, always together. The night deepened, the twin moons casting their light over the kingdom. And somewhere beyond the stars, Valira watched, patient, curious, and perhaps changed by the courage and love she had witnessed. But Kale and Saren needed no protection now, not from shadows, not from illusions, not from the vast unknown. They had each other, and that was more powerful than any force in the universe. And so the kingdom of Lumeria slept peacefully, while two hearts, bound by choice, courage, and love, prepared to face whatever the future might bring.